Good afternoon, and welcome to another edition of the National Reentry Network for Returning Citizens, Black Table Talk. I'm your host, Mr. Sellers, and we have a very special guest with us in the studio today. I'm going to have them introduce himself, and we also have two of my other colleagues who work here at the National Reentry Network for Returning Citizens, and I'll have them introduce themselves. So I'll turn it over to our guest first.
Peace. My name is Mensa Ankma'a. I am the Director of Program Implementation at Thrive DC.
And I'll give it to you, Mrs. Talamonte.
My name is Zachary Talamonte. I'm the Wellness Coach here at the National Reentry Network.
And last but not least, Mr. Harrington.
Hello, everybody. My name is Tron Harrington. I am the Outreach Specialist of the organization.
All right, thank you. I'm so glad you guys are tuning in today. We're going to do a podcast today on everything about wellness and reentry and how it is affecting our brothers and sisters who are either still over at DOC, who are either coming home based on their conditions of release, and how basically wellness spills over into a multifaceted of areas once we are reintegrating back into society. So I just want to put some things in perspective of like giving us a definition to work around when it comes to what is wellness. Wellness is the Global Wellness Institute, based on their definition, is an active pursuit of activities, choices, and lifestyles that lead to a state of holistic health, right? And so that'll kind of be our backdrop for how we're going to like contextualize wellness today. So I would love to start this discussion off with Mr. Talamonte kind of like leading the conversation around his experience in wellness and his perspective, and then we can hear from you as well, Mr. Mensa, and then we can just get the kind of conversation, jump started.
All right. So I think my background, I was growing up playing sports, and then I got incarcerated, and I never really thought about how sports and exercising and eating well kind of had an effect in other parts of my life until I got incarcerated and, had everything taken away from me. And then, as you kind of look back at everything that you had and how everything kind of affected your life, you kind of realize that, there are so many different parts that affect your wellness. It's not just like your mental health. It's not just the things that you eat or, the exercise that you do, but it's like the environment you grew up in. It's the people that you surround yourself with, whether it's socially or at work, it's where you live, and all these different things kind of go into wellness, and they matter even more to returning citizens like us because they're really all we have. And we've gone through so much in the past. A lot of us made mistakes because we were struggling, mentally or physically, which is wellness. And then we made mistakes, and now those are the things that we have to deal with to become, like normal parts of society again. We have work to do, and, it's just a continual process of growing and learning about ourselves.
Yeah, and Mr. Harrington, I would love for you to kind of chime in on this too.
Well, one thing I can say is that it definitely matters when it comes to self-care and just a continuing care, not only for yourself, but the community alone, that would, lead to a restorative justice model. And because how we were programmed growing up, like me and myself, like when it came to not only the carry out, which wasn't good for me, liquor, drugs, it was the rap music, when it, talk about killing your own brother, and all that was programmed. And what I learned to do from a spiritual standpoint was to deprogram myself and then reprogram myself. So, for example, listening to like rap music and being around those particular individuals, growing up in the hood, when I see a brother that look just like me, I'm mugging and I'm like, what the F you looking at? But because I learned to make, better choices in my life and really work on self-care, like really work on my mental, work on my emotions, become more emotional intelligent and my spirit, I could see a gang of gang of brothers, which, you know, it kind of happens when I go to the gym in my mom's complex. Instead of like mugging on everybody, they mug on me. I say a simple hello to all of them. They like 7 to 8 deep with dogs, you know, like, you know, pet dogs, and they smoking and blah, blah, blah. And I would change the whole atmosphere by a simple hello. And after a few greets, they would like greet me first. Like when I'm going to the gym, after like a few weeks go by, they be pressed to be like, "Hey, what's up, brother? Oh, you going to that gym to work out, huh? We gonna meet you this summer." You know, so it's like that goes a long way. Just a simple hello and creating relationships with people. Stop ignoring each other in the communities, because you know it takes a village to raise a child anyway. But it would be hard if the village is sick. So that was more reason why I got into this line of work, to stop poisoning the community and learn to detox the community so we can have a better perception when it comes to the public health.
Absolutely. Yeah. We want to hear from you, of course, Mr. Ma, and, you know, kind of give us a perspective of, you know, the work that you do, and how wellness is a component of that, and the importance of wellness.
Absolutely. So, as I mentioned, I work at Thrive DC, which started off in 1979 as a dinner program for homeless women. We transitioned to Ward 1, where we're currently located at the corner of 16th in Newton. And we are a low-barrier organization. We work with individuals experiencing housing insecurity. I run the men's program, and we also have a women's group as well. The organization has a congregate breakfast every single day, serving over 100 individuals, as well as a weekly food pantry. So in terms of wellness, for me as an individual coming into this work, it really was something that I had to, very similar to the comments that have been shared already, I had to kind of really realize that for myself. I was doing healthy things. I thought I was being holistically healthy in a lot of ways, until life kind of showed me otherwise. So even just very recently within my life, I was doing all the things. I've been a pescatarian since 1994, so the only meat.
What is a pescatarian?
Absolutely, a pescatarian. I only eat fish. Is the only meat that I consume. Trying to take dairy out as well. But I was, you know, fairly healthy in many different aspects. You know, I don't drink soda. I drink a lot of water, all those things.
Yes.
And I thought I was healthy. I was doing the weight training things. I was doing the running things. I was, you know, my diet was intact. And then actually, a few years ago, I got incredibly sick. And that kind of had me reset everything and reconsider all the things that I was doing. Blood work was good. So I had to really reconsider what holistic health truly looked like. And holistic health to me is really coming from the inside out, mentally healthy, spiritually healthy, physically healthy, being able to engage in healthy relationships. So that's kind of where I am now, and that's kind of really forms a lot of the stage from which I, or the platform that I engage the men around their own health, because the men that come to Thrive DC from many different walks of life. We have individuals who are credentialed, degreed, many formerly incarcerated, many from different communities around the world, all of them experiencing some manner of housing insecurity. So for us as the men of Thrive, it's really about being able to be at peace with oneself, and really being that being the starting point, really trying to, or having the skills of self-awareness, having the skills of self-awareness so that you can then self-regulate, like regulate your own emotions. You can't do that if you're not aware of your own emotions. And then from those two steps, then from self-awareness to self-regulation, then you can actually move to self-improvement, whatever that might look like for yourself. But without that self-awareness, really, I don't think you can be holistically healthy in any manner. So that's really the starting point for us.
I think that's excellent. I mean, that is very important. It's so true. Like a lot of people, it starts from a place of personal growth. I mean, God forbid anything happens to an individual where they do get sick and have to, consider wellness. And it got me thinking, and I want to hear from everyone on this. The question is specifically in terms of reentry and wellness, but also from the vantage point of where you're coming from as a person who's in the field of wellness, Mr. Ma, Mr. Harrington, Mr. Talamonte. Why is it that when it comes to wellness and reentry, it seems like a taboo topic, right? Or people aren't educated, or is that a thing, or is it just that we don't want to normalize wellness and reentry, and it shouldn't be a taboo thing?
I mean, I can't speak personally of the environment that some of the people that we have as clients come from, but I do know that from my lived experiences that, you know, that these were a lot of things that you didn't really talk about. You didn't really talk to your friends about it. We certainly didn't really talk to our parents about it. And so, these kind of things, especially wellness, your mental health, self-regulation that like Mr. Ma had mentioned, none of these things we really got talked about. And so they all just kind of sit and fester. And then, different environments, people were taught to not only not say anything, but like to actively not talk about any of these kind of things because, it just wasn't acceptable in that family or in that community to speak about your feelings, to think about, how these things affect your wellness. So I definitely think that not necessarily that it's a taboo, but it's something that, like you said, needs to be normalized because, keeping things in is very detrimental to your wellness in general. You can lead to a host of different issues. Like I know personally, it led to me being very depressed, having low self-esteem issues, which eventually led me to committing my crime in the first place. And I think this kind of leads hand in hand to recidivism is, we don't do enough to really like pay attention to the wellness of the people who are coming home. We expect them to do X, Y, and Z, for like their conditions of supervised release, parole, probation, those kind of things, and they're just worried about, like, okay, we need you to, get a job. We need you to report when anything happens, but they're not really worried about like, oh, well, like, how are you doing today? Are you struggling with treatment? Are you struggling with finding housing or food? Like, those are the questions that never really get asked in our community, and they need to be because they lead to us making mistakes again. If we're not treating whatever mental health issues that we have going on, and we're struggling, we might not lash out right away, but as things keep piling on us and then they don't get talked about, they don't get, accepted in ourselves or in the community, then everything just gets progressively worse. And then, we all know how that story turns out.
Mr. Harrington, is it a taboo? Is it a taboo topic? I mean, is it a sour patch kid situation where people don't want to hear about wellness and reentry or not talk about it and normalize it?
Yeah, I believe because me growing up in the hood, it was like I said, it was all about programming. So when I was a kid, all I knew was just going to school, going outside, play freeze tag. But one thing I did recognize that the community was actually working together. So if my mother wasn't present because she was at work, the neighbor knew that I'm not supposed to cross that street. So when I try to cross that street, they say, hey, you better not cross the street. Boy, I'm going to call your mother. So that's where we kind of fell off at. And then especially becoming a teenager, it's like your mind is more open to, I guess, want to learn more about being an adult. It's like growing up too fast. So, like, hormones kicking in and everything. So, what me surrounding myself with that, like I said, not only like the food I was eating, but we not having the right role models as well and like mentors. So, my role model was my uncle, and my uncle was a hustler. So, and that's all I knew because I didn't have nobody there to show me right from wrong of what it is to be not only a man, but a black man coming up in society today, and learning like more about building your credit, learn about real estate, things that actually matter to not only be a better man, but it leads you to be a better father too, you know. So because of that, we all go through like that downward spiral that is just a domino effect for us all, because nobody really want to be a community leader, So, good thing us having this program, the community-led preventive model, is definitely going to be a game changer when it comes to the community working more together, having circle gatherings, and having less involvement with the criminal justice system. Um, so, on that note, it's just that we just got to be mindful and remind each other that everything we do is not coded. It should come from within. Like Menza was saying earlier, it's like his man's group. They all focused on that everything we do is from the inside and shouldn't be coded on top of us to make us a better person. It reminds me of the theory from when I was going to church. I'm gonna say that, and the pastor had the theory about the chicken and bacon effect. So he was like, how chicken is made. So chicken, you have to clean it, coat it, with the flour, the season, and then put it in oil in order to cook it. Rather than, you have bacon, and when you just put the bacon in the pan, the oil, it comes from within. You don't have to coat anything. So that remind me of when it comes to our spiritual energy and how much power we actually have within. But us being programmed and traumatized, we lose that. Like we fall short of that, and being too infatuated with technology and not want to be more involved with the human element. So thank God that things are really turning around. So yeah.
Yeah, that's powerful. Thanks for the metaphor. And what we're talking about now, Mr. Ma, is like we were saying, has wellness become a taboo subject? And the work that you're doing with wellness, right, and the population that you kind of can see, it seems like it is very reactionary in terms of wellness. And I don't know if that's because diabetes, poor dieting, because we're going to springboard into public health issues, but eating fried food, like Mr. Harrington was talking about, is wellness taboo in certain communities, and like Mr. Talamonte kind of alluded to, that can lead to someone spiraling and it can lead to harm. Like, what are we doing with this? Is it reactionary? Can you bring some context to it?
Sure. I think it's more than reactionary. I think, to be honest, there is no systemic approach to wellness in my view. I've been an educator I'm an educator, period, but former school teacher, former school principal, and I'm not operating in the K-12 space anymore. Much of that reason is because I realized a lot of the miseducation that is systemically happening. So when you think about health, there's no systemic approach to health. So when we talk about returning citizens, how could there possibly be anything systemically in place for society's most dispossessed individuals? So everything from the food pyramid that we all might have learned about when we were growing up, that recently has been shown to be more so popularized by industries, right? Dairy industry, meat industry, more so backing that, so that not because it's healthy for us to do those things, but just so that the profit, engine can continue to operate within a capitalist country like the United States and elsewhere. So there's no systemic approach. In fact, I would say that there's a systemic approach towards illness, towards disease.
Yes.
In our communities, we know exactly what's happening. We know what causes diabetes, and we know all those things that cause diabetes are flooded into our communities, right? From sodas to fried foods to, that leads to obesity, et cetera. So I think in my just seeing this as very clear-eyed, I think that I don't see how there is not some kind of systemic oppressive intention, frankly, because these things are continuing to be popularized. When you think about, and I know just coming back to the question in terms of whether or not wellness is taboo, wellness is something, going back to what Mr. Selves was saying, the only space that I really feel that wellness is truly being grounded in is within the community. Mm-hmm. So that community-based element, that's the only space where I really see the truth of what individuals need to do to be healthy actually being popularized. So it's, turn on the TV. We can flip through all the commercials and point out lies, deception, in terms of, and it's not serving us, but these are still things that are put into our face that we know aren't true. So, and I'll just give one example. Everyone knows, I think everyone probably walking the planet to one extent or another knows, like, hydration is important. Yes. We need to drink lots of water, right? Sure. Period. I don't care who you are. If you're a human being, you need to be hydrated, good, fresh, clean water. Yes. Where is that being popularized? Yeah. So
wait a minute, y'all. He asked us, where is it being popularized, right?
Yes,
let's give him an answer. I don't know.
So right. I guess it's just becoming so clear that rather than I don't think there are any when I was growing up, in the 80s, we used to talk about conspiracy theories, et cetera. Mm-hmm. I don't think none of this stuff is a conspiracy. It's right out
conspiracy
in the front of our face. There's no conspiracy.
Yeah.
United States, we are killing ourselves. We are being fed things that kill ourselves. Mm-hmm. Technology, everything from the cell phone to school lunches in many cases, to dairy, to how long did it take for there to be a veggie burger at any fast food restaurant? And
long time.
And finally, yes, I know Burger King finally got
got plant-based.
Plant-based. Why is that the only? And of course, there's other small, but there's not any. We know that these things are healthy for us, but we still cannot find them easily. So I really feel that it's there's a very direct, very out in the open propaganda campaign to keep individuals, especially individuals of color, especially returning citizens, especially the poor and the dispossessed, leading us to our early graves, and no one is really complaining about it at all. So so in terms of, again, the question of whether or not wellness is taboo, it's out there, but truly no one is truly trumpeting what that truly means beyond individual communities.
Yeah, I'm so glad we are kind of landing here, because we're going to spring forward in terms of the public health component of like what you just kind of like led us into, right? When it comes to wellness, there are a lot of things that, and this is about, just in our discussion, the condition of a returning citizen coming home and what they're up against, the trauma, the wellness, the mind, body, and soul kind of perspective, the say law that comes with trying to cope with being reintegrated back into society. How do you navigate that? How do you keep peace of mind, right? It's easy to spiral when there's no wellness. And I think by you guys bringing context to the question of it being taboo, we've painted a broader picture of maybe what someone is going through in their own thoughts around that, and maybe talking about now, and I want you guys to weigh in on how do we acknowledge that public health issue and not be just left to, is it a conspiracy or is it not? Is it fake news or is it not? There seems like to be an all-out assault in terms of allowing fake news to continue, to poison communities, to dismantle it. It seems like it would take more from a community who is conscious, who is educated, right, to be able to share perspective on that. So I would love to hear more around that. the public health, like the question is, what is the public health uh, concern as it relates to wellness and returning citizens, and how do we bring perspective to that?
I think the whole point of us coming home from incarceration is that we're getting a second chance, right? That is the point. It was we served our time and we're coming home. And the problem is that we face all these different issues. You know, we have trouble finding housing, we have trouble finding employment. You know, in some areas like Ward 7 and Wards 8, there is a massive food desert where it's just impossible to find any healthy food, like Mr. Ma was talking about earlier. Um, you know, they're closing down. The government's been closing down substance abuse treatment facilities. You know, there's the stigmatization of just returning citizens in general. No one wants to give us a chance. No one, you know, wants to stop and talk to us, you know, because they all just assume that we're just all these awful people who did all these awful things, you know, and those all take a toll on our overall wellness. You know, it might affect us mentally, but then that shows up physically as well. You know, we could be just tired all the time. You know, we might not be able to find housing, so now we're going around, we're homeless down the street. You know, that's causing a problem for the community. You know, Mr. Harrington kind of talked a little bit about our CLPN program earlier. One of the things that we have talked to a couple businesses about is the fact that they have homeless people around, you know, sleeping on their storefronts. You know, they have people loitering around their storefronts, and how that has not only negatively affected their business, but also them personally as well. You know, and all of these things, I think, in my personal opinion, could be solved if, honestly, everybody just cared a little bit more about each other. Like, it shouldn't matter that you went to prison. We all make mistakes. You know, we all did something that we're not proud of. The only difference is some of us went to an institution as punishment for it, and, you know, for whatever reason, some of us didn't. And those people who didn't, it doesn't really matter what they did. It doesn't come up, you know, but for us as returning citizens, that is always the first thing, you know, I can't really trust you because, you know, you went to prison, you know, whatever. You know, and if we really want to start, you know, positively affecting our public health, we need to be looking at the people who are in the community, you know, and returning citizens are part of the community just as much as anybody else is. We live there, we work there, you know, we sleep there. You know, we are a part of the community. And, you know, we need to start changing the perception and showing that, you know, if you really want to help us, help us. Don't just talk about it. We need resources. We need housing. We need better employment opportunities, you know, healthcare, mental health. You know, we need to address all of these issues.
Yeah, Mr. Harris,
Yeah.
he jump in
Yeah, definitely.
on this public health crisis
got
as
you.
it. Yeah, take
I
it
got
away.
you. So, I'm just going to just be flat out truthful about this, because this is something that I thought about growing up, and I know that quite a few of my brothers and sisters also felt like this. And Mr. Stewart, the CEO of the organization, had always said something about this topic, that when I started to like feel depressed and feel like I'm not going to make it out, I always thought that somebody was going to come and save me. And nobody's coming to save us. And when we do decide to want to make a difference, like when it comes to legislation and policy, going to the council meetings, they always want you to put everything in one basket. Like, well, what are your solutions? And that's not a good thing to do, because if we say a solution, they're going to hold us to it. So I'm here to say the number one solution is putting in the work. That's it. Putting in the work, seeing the results. I mean, we are definitely the living proof, though. Just being in this line of work and engaging with each other, you know, each one teach one, and nobody gets left behind. So, for example, there was a gentleman that called in earlier today, and he wanted to know more about the community-led preventive model program. So I shared a lot with him, especially from a relatable standpoint, that he can actually like understand the vision, and he was all for it. He's like, yeah, I want to volunteer. he didn't care about the money or nothing. He don't even have a job. Like he's going to participate in our program anyway, ready for work. But that's how much passion he had behind it when I told him what the outcome was going to be. Like, yeah, it's like a 4-year program, 4-year process, but I always say this: the Roman Empire wasn't built in a day. So every day hitting the ground running, and we eventually collaborate with the community. We're going to stand tall. So, like I said, putting the work and letting people know that we understand, because it's all about the experience. It's none of this is textbook. Because we are all properly returning citizens. We all experienced the criminal justice system that had a major impact for us to feel frustrated, feel displaced. Because when I got that criminal record, I'm like, dang, like, it's hard for me to get a job now, and it's hard for me to get accepted, and especially before I knew they changed the language to returning citizens. All I knew was convicted felon. So when a person hears that, even the people that's listening to this podcast, when a person hears that, it's automatically negative, because even if it was a slight charge that you had but made you a convicted felon, the average Joe or the small amount of individual would think you a murderer.
Yep.
Because you're a convicted felon. Like, yeah, you're not to be trusted. And that's not a good feeling, because like we did our bid, we learned our lesson, and all we want is a second chance. And if they don't even try to do that for us, then that's when recidivism becomes in effect. And because we can't feed our kids, we can't take care of our mom, because nobody wants to hire us. Now it's like we gotta sell drugs and stuff, because it's like we gotta eat, we gotta take care of our family, and we don't want to do that. I don't think any brother really enjoys doing that, poisoning the community just to get rich. So that's when I knew, like, I couldn't do this no more. Even though my family gotta eat, I just couldn't sacrifice the community with that, because it's like, yeah, my family good now, they got a big house and stuff like that, but what about my brothers and sisters that I went to school with, and now they strung out on drugs? Like, I can't leave them behind, because then what about their kids? So all that comes in effect, just when you put in the work, you have the passion for it, you love doing it. When it comes, it's like self-care. Enjoy taking care of yourself, because it's all you got. Like, grandma used to tell me your body is a temple. When I was growing up, I didn't know what that meant. I kept thinking about pyramids in Egypt. I didn't know what that meant. But as I got older, it started to awaken in me, and I'm like, oh, okay, like, this is my house. So no matter where I'm at in the world, as long as I'm taking care of this shell, I'm gonna be okay in the physical realm. So and all we have to do is continue to educate each other, and like I said, nobody get left behind. So
yeah, I was going to ask Mr. Ma, because I think Mr. Harrington was the one who said Rome wasn't built in a day, but a pyramid wasn't built by one person either. So this public health thing that we're talking about, Mr. Ma, why are we neglecting that and seeing the ramifications of that neglect, and how, whether it's a reentry perspective, right? Like you were talking about a minute ago, the sickness on the community. What are we to learn about that perspective of the importance of public health and wellness, and if it's left undone, and the continuation of that,
Yeah, no, that man, there's been so many powerful things that have been shared. So just to go back a little bit, I'm going to get to the question, but through working with individuals experiencing housing insecurity, one of the I've learned so much, and I continue to learn so much, and I feel that I'm blessed, incredibly blessed, to be able to work with individuals experiencing housing insecurity, many of whom have been formerly incarcerated. One of the things that I've learned is that so before coming into Thrive DC, I just wondered, like, how do people become homeless? Like, what does that look like? Like, what is the story? And I'm continuing to learn that every single individual is so different. Again, like, it could be just falling through the cracks, not having a safety net. It could be a health issue. They went into debt, became unhoused. It could be like so many different issues. But one thing that I've just continued to recognize, just the common thread of humanity among us all, which is frankly eroding. And I don't know if we really see how, as we advance, quote unquote, technologically, how we're actually going backwards in so many ways, even faster, regarding just how we engage with each other as human beings. And I think that is in so many ways driven intentionally by fear. Like if concerning returning citizens, if we don't know what that looks like, then I'm going to probably make up this thing in my mind about like, oh, returning citizens, former convict, convict convicted. That means they guilty of something. We need to lock them up, throw them away. That has been the approach in these United States that locks up more individuals in this country than probably all industrialized nations. I don't have the exact statistics, but we lock up way too many people. And then we want to continue to do that. Here in D.C., looking at what's happening now, even regarding individuals that are unhoused, encampments just being demolished, with no place for individuals to go. So we were talking earlier about like individuals loitering at businesses. Where are these individuals who have found some place of respite? Now they're just uprooted. Where are we expecting these individuals to go? Prison, right? For like, and that is the answer for many individuals, because we don't want to see those things societally. So I think I read a book a long time ago called The Culture of Fear, and there are many, but it kind of speaks to it. But here in the United States and elsewhere, we have this culture of fear, which then drives individuals to not want to engage, not even want to like find out more, not want to be curious about individuals that are different from themselves. We have a deteriorating emotional intelligence within this country because that can be defined as just the ability to communicate effectively with folks who are different than you. Yeah. And day by day, month to month, year to year, as humans in this country, we are becoming worse and worse at that. And we see that these separations continue to happen. So going back to what Mr. Telemonti was saying, the only solution, I believe, is we have to learn how to get along better as a human family. And that can happen in many different ways, but we have to actually understand that there must always be an element of forgiveness, right, for all of us. And right now that is only being granted to the folks who have money to cover it up and I have money so then I can be all these things and kill individuals and not care, but I have money, so that makes it okay. So I think as a society, we just have to, person to person, family to family, continue to like knit that fabric back together, because we're in immense trouble as a society. And again, coming back to the public health component, like we are continuing to get sicker and sicker, and it's literally and figuratively. Yeah. So even we can talk about like how expensive it is to how much more expensive it is to actually try to get someone healthy versus actually living a healthy lifestyle. That common sense has not quite hit the ground yet in these United States. So we're still kind of waiting for that reactionary, ooh, I got this pain, ooh, I have this, I guess I need to do something about my health, versus creating a society where that is actually the norm, right? Mm-hmm. Why can't we actually be teaching about growing our own food? Yes. We have, right? Why can't that be an expectation to actually, that is something that everyone should know how to do, but it's not something that's being taught or popularized. So something as simple as that can lead to expanded life expectancy, lead to decreased insurance premiums and et cetera. But we're not currently taking that approach at all.
Thank you, gentlemen. We're going to shift gears before we get out of here because it's about that time. But at the National Reentry Network for Returning Citizens, to, our guest, Mr. Ma, and my colleagues know this. Our motto is we are investing in people and not prisons. And I'm going to say it again. We're investing in people and not prisons. And so today I want to have you guys, before we close out, just each one of you take some time to give perspective to that. And we talked about, like, right, what is wellness as it relates to returning citizens? What has wellness been for you three who spoke today on our podcast from a lived experience and what you've been facing with that? We talked about the public health perspective of reentrying and wellness and the public health issues based on what you guys have experienced in your own lives, right? And the work and the fight that continues. So in the context of everything that we talked about today, I would like some closing remarks from you three about what are you guys going to do? And I know you talked about some of the strengths of what you did and some of the weaknesses of what you're trying to improve, but what are you guys going to do? And I'll start with you, Mr. Ma.
Yeah, I think we have to walk the walk. So going back to just something that's foundational for me, know thyself. So it really starts there. So I need to be an example of that if I'm going to talk about it.
Yes.
If we haven't got to talk about it yet, but it's one thing that always comes up for me is breath. As simple as it may seem, we breathe automatically. It's part of our autonomic nervous system, and we actually are becoming unhealthy breathers, like literally. How many of us have issues with sleep? How many of us actually have issues with just nervous, anxiety, et cetera, because we're actually not being in the present. We're not here in our bodies. We have anxiety about what's to come. We have shame that we haven't released from the past. So we really can't even hardly engage with folks. We have our phones going off with notifications at XYZ. So we can hardly even, we're losing the ability to even have a conversation. So like engage and hold space for other individuals. So to me, it really starts there. Like how can we actually develop our own emotional intelligence, share that, grow that so that we can continue to, or actually maybe re-begin just being more part of this human family and treating each other with the humanity that we all deserve. But I think it starts from that individual space.
Whoever, Mr. Harrington or Mr. Talamonte, whoever.
So, one thing I can say is that the best way for me to approach this is continue to lead by example. Pretty much everything that helped me in my trials and tribulations and trying to overcome these barriers from feeling displaced and frustrated and feeling like there's no way out, I learned to work on myself, like self-care, try to remove poison, as much poison out of my body. I used to be a heavy chain smoker of cigarettes, to the point that, I would break down cigarette butts and the top paper just to get that nicotine, to feed that dopamine. But it's, like I said, it's like all experience, because people need to understand that from mistakes comes experience that turns into wisdom. And once you obtain the wisdom, it's easy to share it, especially when you have the passion behind it. We had definitely helped out so many individuals, not only with like job readiness, but to be more economic self-sufficient back into reentry. One of the previous clients that we had, she was also a heavy chain smoker. So yes, Talamonte, you know who I'm talking about. And just being around her and giving her the steps that helped me to remove tobacco out of my life, she had slowed down tremendously of smoking cancer sticks. And I'm so proud of her for that. And along with other individuals that just feel lost, I just be so happy to reach out to them and just let them know that they are loved and they're not forgotten. And that's why the CEO made me outreach specialist. Like he had that one-on-one conversation. He said, I know exactly what I'm gonna do with you, Mr. Harrington. And he wasn't wrong. Like, man, that's one hell of a guy. I definitely applaud him. If anything, he's my mentor, you know. So but yeah, just continue to lead by example from the experience, and no matter what they're going through, you continue to go along with the challenges with them. Like, don't give up on them, because everybody gives up on them. The homeless people, the guys that's loitering in front of the corner store, you know, and you know, just being there and having a simple conversation, or just a simple hello, how you doing? I love you. Talk to you later. That goes a long way. So when all right, for example, when we go and engage with the community of the Strip of Minnesota, we wanted them to welcome us back, right? And the best way to do that was create relationships with the community, create relationships with the business stakeholders, and keep showing up. Don't be the organization that just shows up once a full moon and they got their check. I'm just saying, they just seem like that's how it go. And the community is tired of that. They tired of seeing the organizations come through and not really being authentic about it. You know, like, you really want to see this difference. Like, all I see is green when we actually could finish doing what we're doing to prevent more harm in the community. That's all I see. I see more trees and bushes being grown. I even see people growing fruit in their yards. I see more circle gatherings. I see more community just want to work together. If a kid steals from the convenience store, he's not going to call 911. He's going to call one of the community leaders. I'm like, hey, yeah, you know, John, this is the second time doing it. So if anything, I feel like we need to do a community circle gathering. And all the people that needs to be there just at that particular one would definitely show up, because, you know, because it has to be addressed, you know, and the best way to do it, people work together, people communicate with each other, working on emotional intelligence, self-awareness, self-care, and yeah, we definitely going to be all right.
Mr. Talamonte?
I think we've all kind of been on the cusp of saying we all just need to be more caring. We need to be more caring with not only ourselves, but with the people around us. You know, we need to stop and think about not only what we're going through, but also what the people around us are going through. And I think also what Mr. Stewart kind of presses on us a lot is to share our knowledge and experiences with others, because we don't know how us sharing our story and how, you know, we might have succeeded and gone through the trials and tribulations and made it through to the other side can inspire somebody else. So I think we should all be doing more of that as well.
Yes.
For those of you guys who tuned in today, this is not the end. This is just the beginning. Mr. Ma is going to be coming back. We're going to be doing more around this topic. And let us always remember, you know, as we close out today, right? Let us stop just treating the symptom, Mr. Ma, right? And let's try to get to the causes of why wellness is not top of mind and why public health, as it relates to reentry, is just it's not being normalized. And let's get a little bit more into this the next time we come back for another episode. For that being said, thank you guys for tuning in today. I hope you have a wonderful day.